Hey trumpet nerds! If you play trumpet in an ensemble, you'll know that sometimes you have a ton of equipment to juggle. From page turns and mute changes to keeping all my equipment organized and easy to access. So over the past few years playing in the Charlotte Symphony, I've slowly upgraded my setup to try to manage that craziness the best that I can. Have I gone too far? Almost certainly, but I'm gonna share these tips with you anyway, and maybe one of the things I do will help you find peace of mind in your tone zone and stay focused on the music. None of the brands or products I recommend are actually sponsors of my channel, except Venture Mouthpieces, and the products that I talk about are either in my actual orchestra setup or I've seen other professionals use and swear by. Links to these products can be found in the description below, some of which might be affiliate links, which can help me make money to support my channel. Okay, let's get started with something I think every trumpet player should have. A trumpet stand. You gotta have somewhere to put that thing down when you've got a long rest in the music or while the music director is rehearsing some other section that doesn't involve you. Trumpet stands let you easily display and organize all the horns you need at the gig so that you can grab or switch between them at a moment's notice. For B flat or C trumpet, I recommend the 5-leg K&M trumpet stand. For flugelhorn, there's a flugelhorn version of that same thing. And for piccolo, I like either the Hercules flute clarinet stand or the 4-leg K&M clarinet stand. The K&M stands all pack easily in the bell, so they won't need any extra room in your case, especially since you might also have the floor around your chair covered with another notorious trumpet mess, trumpet mutes. Sometimes we need a lot of mutes at a gig, and they can be quickly and easily organized using a mute rack. I always used to just put my mutes on the floor next to my chair or in front of my stand, which works fine until that suspenseful orchestral pianissimo moment gets ruined by you clumsily kicking some of them over with your foot. And if it's a quick mute change and you've been putting mutes down willy-nilly all over the floor, you'll have to try to figure out where you put the one you need while leaning forward really far to reach them. A truly terrifying feeling. Mute racks usually hold a lot of mutes, and you'll always know where the mute you need is if you always put them back in the same rings. My favorite one is the Hercules mute holder because it really feels like they thought all the way through it. The attachment mechanism is universal enough to attach to many different stands or chairs. The rings swivel, which will allow you to swing the ones you don't need out of the way or make room for bigger mutes. They put foam on the rings to prevent accidental mute clinking sounds, and it even comes with a little tray for a bonus mouthpiece or something, but I did lose mine a long time ago. There's another one I like though, the Mute Caddy ring model, which is a little more pricey, but it can hold up to 5 mutes or 4 mutes in a mouthpiece. The biggest downside to this one is that it's missing the foam on the ring, so it's a little noisier to use. Both of these mute holders were actually designed to be attached to a music stand, but I prefer to attach it to the front left chair leg, making fast mute changes even easier to pull off by having the mutes as close as possible to my left hand. When I'm playing outside, instead of attaching my mute rack to my music stand, I'll usually attach a USB-powered fan to it. Having a nice personal breeze makes it so much more comfortable to perform in hot and sweaty weather. All you need to beat the heat is a USB fan and a fully charged USB battery brick, and you can easily stay cool while watching everyone else sweat. Another lovely addition to my setup has been this little pouch to hold valve oil, and slide grease. It's so convenient to have all these things in a nice little package, making it easy for you to have on stage with you in case of any emergencies. It's also kind of a nice flex to be the one who always has valve oil when one of your buddies needs it in the middle of a show. I also like to keep toothpicks in this pouch, which allow me to spread grease on my slides without getting my hands all nasty. Inevitably, grease gets everywhere regardless of what I do, which makes it really handy to also have microfiber cloths. I always hesitate to wear actual nice clothing to work because playing the trumpet is sometimes more like working on a car than performing on a musical instrument. Without fail, I'll be coming home after rehearsal with stains all over my nice new khakis. So eventually I had the idea to bring microfiber cloths with me to act as a barrier to protect my sweet threads from all that trumpet nastiness. I also use the cloths to wipe up the extra grease and oil off my trumpet after I'm applying it, and to wipe off the toothpicks I use to apply the grease so the inside of my pouch doesn't get all nasty. I actually keep 2 different cloths with me. A black one that's just for wiping my mouthpiece, and a more brightly colored one that I use for the grease and oil going on my valves and slides. Wouldn't it be nice to have somewhere convenient to keep the pouch and the microfiber cloths? Well, our friends over in the woodwind section already have a great solution that I think can really help trumpet players out. A music stand tray. I noticed woodwind players often had these little trays attached to their music stands to hold their reeds, water cups, and murder weapons. And it turns out that anyone is allowed to buy these, and they're called either microphone or woodwind trays. Using one of these trays is a revelation. I can finally have all my bibs and bobs nicely integrated into my setup. You could just use it for the cleaning supply pouch and cloths, but I also like to use it for extra mouthpieces, a mute or two, even using it to prop up a derby mute once, a click track headset, earplugs, a phone if you're feeling naughty, or even a cup of coffee. Speaking of extra mouthpieces, and before we move on to the next huge anxiety-reducing tip, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Venture Mouthpieces. Yeah, sometimes my tray has a bunch of mouthpieces on it, and luckily, this video's sponsor, Venture Mouthpieces, makes getting the right mouthpiece for any situation easier than ever. Everyone has mouthpieces they've come back to over and over. They're tried and true. They're old, reliable. And Venture lets you take that mouthpiece, scan it, and use it to create almost any variation you can imagine. In my setup for a musical I did this summer, I used piccolo, trumpet, and flugelhorn mouthpieces that featured a scanned version of my personal rim and some really interesting internal designs. My piccolo piece is like a Yamaha 11A5, but scaled wider to fit my Park 640 style rim. And my flugelhorn piece is based on a crazy mouthpiece from the 1840s that has literal waves in it and a giant secondary cup. No idea if the waves do anything, but it's just awesome that Venture let me copy that feature and experiment with it in my modern flugelhorn with my personal rim. I'm speaking from personal experience that once you start making pieces this way, it can be hard to stop. Use the coupon code MEGASTAND at checkout to get 10% off any brass mouthpiece order from Venture. Now, I'll share a tip that can save you from one of the most terrifying situations a musician can encounter. Everyone probably has at least a few stories involving a nightmare page turn or other paper-related difficulties while performing. There was once when I was playing the first movement of Ewald 2 in grad school with a brass quintet, and as we were rehearsing, our coach told everyone in the group to figure out our page turns and get everything taped together well ahead of time. Fast forward to my quintet's performance, and my unnamed trumpet colleague tried to turn his page in the middle of the movement, and all of his pages of his loose leaf part somehow flew off the stand and out into the abyss in the middle of the quintet. He helplessly looked at me with a "please help me" look, and I was just as busy playing my own nonstop part. After trying to play memorized for maybe 10 to 15 seconds, he gave up and sheepishly went and collected his music as the quintet had to keep tooting along without him. I think the person probably learned his lesson, but I also decided to take a look at my music organization habits after watching that very embarrassing spectacle unfold. Now, if you're going to use paper music, there are a few ways to improve the experience, like using a 3-ring binder and cleverly using 2 copies of the pages that have terrible page turns, using these handy little battery-powered stand lights to make the music easier to see, or using standouts to extend the width of your stand so that you can see every page all at once. But honestly, now I've ditched the paper almost entirely for my iPad Pro. Originally, it was just so I could stop carrying around all my Etude and Fundamentals books when I was in school, but the convenience of using it for all my music reading became harder and harder to ignore. It fits easily into my brass bag quad, holds all the books and music I could ever scan into it, and its 12.9-inch screen makes all the music as large as regular sheet music when you take the time to crop it. Now, at first, there were a few things about it that made me hesitate to use it at work, like making sure the battery is always charged and having to scan in the music that some librarian has already painstakingly prepared for me. But once you've got the hang of the quirks, I think you'll find the convenience of reading music off the iPad addicting. If you're worried about the battery life, also bring a USB battery brick like the one that I use with the fan. As far as reading your music on the iPad, I highly recommend using the extremely powerful Fourscore app, which lets you easily mark your music in a bunch of different ways and even has stamps for standard notation symbols. One thing that seems like a downside, but isn't really for me, is that when the iPad is vertical, you can really only see 1 page at a time instead of 2, like you would on a paper part. But this becomes a non-issue because of Fourscore's half-page turn feature, which lets you turn the page anytime you want and see the top of the next page while looking at the bottom of your current page. I've always been the kind of person who writes a lot of notes in my music, and as I use the iPad for more and more gigs, I started kind of feeling like a kid finger painting while trying to write stuff in. So eventually I gave in and also bought an Apple Pencil so I could write and mark more neatly on my iPad. You just have to be careful not to drop it. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is much heavier and louder on impact than a typical pencil, so dropping it in the middle of rehearsal can be very disruptive. The last iPad-related thing I added was a Bluetooth foot pedal, which basically allows me to almost completely forget to make a page turn and still tap the pedal without taking my hand off the trumpet. I have the PageFlip Firefly, but there are a lot of popular options out there. Even these little Bluetooth buttons, which I've seen people actually attach directly to their instruments. If you're worried about monitoring the battery on the pedal in addition to the iPad, I wouldn't be. I've had the same AA batteries in my pedal for a few years and still have never had to replace them. I usually even keep my pedal in the little mailbox I have at the Symphony, just like another thing I find useful to keep with me at all times, my cleaning spray. Have you ever seen a mouthpiece that looks like this? If you look closely, there's actually a huge collection of dead skin cells that have accumulated on the rim, which I've heard affectionately called mouthpiece cheese. I've always been especially prone to getting pimples right on my embouchure, on the lip line, and the thing that actually helped reduce the number of pimples I was getting was literally spraying the rim and cup of my mouthpiece with cleaning spray and wiping it with a microfiber cloth every 10 minutes or so. I bought these little refillable spray bottles and a huge bottle of Roche Thomas mouthpiece cleaner, and I dilute it with water 50%. I'll keep a bottle and the microfiber cloth in each of my cases as well as at work and launder and rotate the cloths weekly. Is this overkill? I mean, I've never seen anyone else doing this, but it's been working better than anything else else I've tried, so I'm gonna stick with it for now. Speaking of overkill, this next upgrade is almost certainly the silliest one of all, and it has actually gotten me a lot of attention at work from my colleagues. About a year ago, I decided to cut my stand in half. Why did I do this? Well, after switching to the iPad, I found that I was only using half the stand anyway. It started to bother me that all this unused space on my stand was not only obstructing my view, but would also get in the way of my neighbor's precious tone zone, or playing window. So I bought a black Manhasset music stand, took it to a welder, and had them cut it down to the width of my iPad. It only took them a few minutes to cut, and a little longer to file down the sharp edges of the stand, and tiny stand. Does it look a little ridiculous? Yes. Do people laugh at it every time I bring it to a gig? Also yes. But I know deep down that they are also extremely jealous and impressed. From the audience, this stand blends in with all the other nice looking black music stands and keeps the stage looking cohesive and refined, unlike those weird tablet gripping devices designed to hold iPads. I also love using it when space is a little tight and it gives my colleagues a little extra room for their own playing windows, music stands, or microphones. It doesn't hold regular sheet music all that well, unless you use standouts, but come on, look how cute it is. One drawback I'll point out about the tiny stand is that the smaller surface area makes it more difficult to purposefully reflect your own sound. Generally, yes, I like to have the stand out of the way of my bell, but there are situations where reflecting your own sound, either at yourself or at a section mate, can be really useful. Like if you're in a small pit and everyone's playing really loudly and it's hard to hear yourself, or if you're playing soft octaves or something and you want the principal to feel really supported by you without you actually having to play all that loud. I actually keep one of those standouts on my tiny stand at all times, which lets me reflect as much or as little sound as I want, depending on the situation. I have one even more involved recommendation to really create that ultimate setup that I finally got around to making back in April. Is it too much? Yes, but boy, can it be helpful. I wasn't sure at first what to call this. Calling it a mute holder is kind of confusing because that's what some people call a mute rack. So I'm choosing to call this a quick mute change apparatus. It can be made a few different ways, but the point is that it holds the mute out for you to put your bell over to allow you to make a super quick mute change. Some of these clamp directly to your stand, and others, like mine, are designed to use a microphone stand base. The piece I've seen people use these for is Mahler's Symphony No. 1. In case you're not familiar with this piece, the beginning of the fourth movement has famously fast mute changes in it, and the muted lick requires both hands because it ends on a low D flat, and I have to throw out my third slide to play it in tune. Now you might still be wondering, what about all the stuff in that crazy thumbnail? I've actually talked about everything in it except for one thing, the phone tablet arms. These are designed for desks but work just as well on a music stand. I usually keep these to my at-home practice studio, but it is very useful to be able to throw up your phone to use as a metronome, tuner, or for taking videos of yourself. So that's all I've got. Now I want to hear from you. Have I gone too far? What things have you done to optimize your playing setup, whether it's at home or at rehearsal? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for joining me for this episode of John Talks Trumpet. And I'll see you on my next Nerdy Trumpet adventure. Did that get on camera?